There are lots of different games. Some of them are based on glossaries. Some of them are based on Moodle quizzes. Some of them are based on the question bank. And it all depends on which thing you have set up to determine which game or interactive activity you can add based on that. Since we're adding glossaries, I'm going to look at the ones that we can specifically add based on having a glossary entry. So for in our course, I just made a section called Moodle Games just to add these two, so it wouldn't affect the rest of my course. If I go to activities, I should see the whole list of games. They all look like this with a game board on them. If you can't see the Moodle Games, you just need to let me know and I will make sure they're activated for you. So I'm going to go to the crossword first. If I go to the crossword game, the first thing it gives me obviously is the name, and I'm going to say Chapter 3 crossword. And that's because as you add more games, you don't want to just leave it as crossword. I might want to add a description. Take as many, or I should say play. Okay, so I'm going to say do it as many times as you can. Now, source of questions on this, I have three choices. It defaults to glossary. I can do a specific quiz. For instance, I could do a chapter test or any other formative quiz. I can do it questions out of the question bank if I wanted to. So it would literally ask the question and it would have to be a short answer, a one-word answer. And then I can choose which one. So we're going to stick with glossary. I've got a bunch of glossaries that are one for each chapter, so I'm going to go ahead and say chapter 3 power terms. You can also, if you had categories in your glossaries, which I do not have, you could select categories. I don't have those. Only approved teacher glossary entries. Now, glossaries, when we set them up, students can add words to. Do you want those words to be able to be in the crossword puzzle? I'm going to say yes to only a teacher approved words so that something doesn't automatically show up in there. Now you can see these are grayed out. They're grayed out because I didn't choose a question category or a quiz, so no big deal there. How many times they can take it? Well, if you want them to, you could say, I already said as many times as you want, but you could limit the students to say you get one shot on there. Okay, down here, is it graded? Sure, I'm going to put it in the formative category for second quarter. How many points do they get? I'm going to give them 5, and I'm going to say this is an extra credit assignment. That's how I do the games. They become extra credit in something so that doing poorly on a game doesn't penalize them. That's a personal thing. If you're using it as a real assignment, then obviously don't make it extra credit. Then I have options in the crossword puzzle. How many rows and columns and words do you want me to have? I'm going to say, you know what, I want at least 10 words, but no more than 16. Do I allow spaces? You can say yes, so that if there's spaces in the words, it will allow those glossary entries. And then how do you want it? Do you want them on the right or on the bottom? I'm going to say on the right and see what that looks like. And then you might have, let's expand all these. So footer options, you can have it say something when it's done. Whether it shows or hides and how they play the game doesn't really matter. Grouping doesn't. I might say you have to have done something in order to see this game. In other words, you have to have read the glossary maybe in order to see the game. And I have completions hidden. Let me unhide those so I can see the restriction access. There we go. So I could add a restriction and saying, you know what, in order to do this, you have to have at least completed the chapter 3 glossary. In other words, you have to have looked at the terms in order to see the game, which I do. And by the way, when you're poking in the eye, that's not hiding it. It's hiding it if you haven't done this. And then you can make completion requirements. If you only need to do completion conditions if this you want it to be a restriction for something else. In other words, you've got to do the crossword puzzle before you can do the next thing. If you want to do that, you can say add requirements. You have to at least receive a grade. In other words, they have to have done something on it. And you could say a specific grade or just any grade. You have to have done it once in order to do this. Then I'm going to hit save and display, and we can preview and and see what it looks like. So I said 10 to 16 terms. So here is my crossword puzzle. I said I wanted the words on the right. Wow, some of these words are huge. And then that's it. So that is what a crossword looks like when we're playing this. And if they shrink those things on the left and right, it makes it obviously a lot more usable. I just wanted to show you one example of the game. So you can play with those yourself and take a look and see which games work best for your classroom. And that's it on adding Moodle games.